I think to an extent, we've all at some point in our lives thought about just leaving it all behind. I personally love fantasizing about just living in the woods for the rest of my life and getting away from all of it. And I think that is why the non existence of you and me appeals to me and so many other people, because it offers that fantasy world and even justification for it. That the world ain't perfect and it's unsightly at times and honestly not worth the trouble. So it's fine to feel that you should just get away from it all. What I mean is that the non existence of you and me puts you in the fantasy world, and the furniture treats you like a king and tries to explain everything to you. Your understanding becomes a pivotal part of the entire game, and it starts with a world that is trying to be understood rather than one that is trying to remain as confusing as possible for you. The game goes out of its way to make an emphasis on the fact that your understanding is the most important thing. Things like the mini game with the oven and giving the last boss in chapter 2 a weakness is all a way of showing that it is your understanding that solves issues. And I like to think it's the game's way of telling you that it is your perspective on the world and your perspective on other people even that helps you cope with it all. I know for me, I had a much easier time grappling with the world when I felt like I could just switch my mind off, when I decided to stop thinking and escape to different worlds, like reading novels and fantasy, watching TV, and just getting away from it no matter what, so that I didn't have to think about it. And I know it's not easy to just change the mindset, but it does come down to some kind of perspective on the world that defines your satisfaction in it. And I think that's what the game wants to say. And especially with the imaginary world in Lilith, it seems to want to give you a construction of what to build from your own mind. It's not necessarily that you have to run away, but rather that you can look at it differently. I mean, just about every single chapter seems to put an emphasis on that perspective, except for chapter 4, which really just puts on the weight of the world and the pressures it puts on people and the motivations for why they would run away in the first place. The 25 hours playing visual novels was not just a one-off thing. It did seem, and there was even a response that does sound nice, because it does seem nice. Being able to play visual novels for 25 hours a day, who wouldn't want that? No worries, no pressures from the outside world. It sounds lovely. But just because you have that doesn't necessarily make it better. The game really wants you to have something more than that, not just an escape. And because the game itself is a visual novel, I feel like it pointing out that the 25 hours a day is not a good thing, and it seems to draw the line between itself and its fantasy world, its fictional, or not fictional, but imaginary world that Lilith built, and visual novels, so that you know yourself that this is not the solution. It's not to stay inside all day and dream up your wonderland, but rather to develop your own coping mechanisms to go out in the real world. That seems to be what most of the endings are getting behind as well, with the bad ending being where you reject Lilith entirely and just go to face the world. It's debatable whether or not that is actually a good thing, because the protagonist gets rid of his only comfort, but ultimately the conclusion is that he is able to step outside and face what's coming. And in the ending that we all like, where Lilith stays around, he is still able to manage reality, but now it's with Lilith to make it that he can actually go outside and be comfortable, because there's no other solution. As long as he gets outside, everything will work out. There are other endings too, but I feel like those ones are much more grim, because the worst one, in my opinion, where he does end up accepting Lilith but kills himself in the process, is a rejection of all that. There is no way to be comfortable in the world. The only solution is to get away from it. However, an issue arises when calling the question whether a person who does nothing is any different from a dead man. The game also goes out of its way to kind of tackle this perspective, the differences, and what is real and what isn't. Like the difference between someone who's dead and someone who doesn't do anything, though not directly stated in the game, it does seem to be kind of implied through the story. And the whole reality being the self-construction that it goes through in the majority of the chapters really does lean into the idea of perspective and how you kind of have to be your own solution. And as I've said, it's not so much just flipping a switch and stopping it all from bothering you. You really do have to go out of your way, play a whole visual novel to adjust how you see the world. I know I've never much thought about the idea that no one exists outside of what I've seen. And the game proposes this question, or Lilith does, where someone you've never interacted with and never will, do they even exist? Because to me, nothing changes. I won't notice if they're gone, I won't notice if they die, I won't notice if they never existed to begin with, so what's the difference? I can't be afforded to concern myself with another individual when I don't even know if they're actually real. I do think it's nice to finally center on yourself for once, because a lot of people nowadays seem to think they have to constantly worry about what other people are thinking. But in the end, it really just does come down to yourself, and you've got to piece that back together. I think that the main reason I resonate so deeply with this game is because I've always kind of had an obsession with understanding and just a little bit of narcissism, because I've come to the conclusion, at least for myself, that when I know what's going on, I am a lot happier. When things hit the fan and the whole world seems to fall apart, for me at least, it's never because something has gone horribly wrong. It's because I can't understand why things turned out this way. And when it comes to people specifically, because they're so unpredictable a lot of the times, that is usually when I get frustrated and when I can't take it anymore, because I can't understand what they're thinking. So it's nice to see this game kind of echo this idea that because we can't understand a lot of things, we'll never really be fully satisfied with the world. And I think one solution to that is that smidge of self-centrism, because in the end, when you somehow decide to only care about your own opinion, you don't need to understand what people think. And all of a sudden the whole world opens up. You don't have to worry about it anymore, or I didn't have to worry about it anymore, because I can finally come to terms with the fact that they're all crazy. People are crazy. I'm crazy. We're all batshit insane, and trying to wrap my head around it will just spiral me down into negativity. So that narcissism almost kind of brought me back down to earth, where I can see for myself, my opinion is the main one that matters. I don't have to worry about anyone's else. If I can understand the way I think and why I believe the things I do, why I do the things that I do, I won't have regrets, I won't have any qualms, and I'll just be content with the way things are. I think, though not outright stated, the non-existence of you and me really gets that idea. I can't say this for everyone because, like I said, humans are incredibly unpredictable, and what works for me probably won't work for everyone else. But I do recommend playing the game for yourself because I see a lot of people who play it and come to different conclusions on its meaning and its story, but in the end, they all come out of it changed for the better, at least according to them. Whether or not you agree with me on my interpretation of the game, I think whatever you decide for yourself is infinitely more important. And this does kind of echo my idea of self centrism because your interpretation of the game is a lot more important than mine. And I am sure the effect it had on you will be just as meaningful as the effect it had on me.